Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Hopefully a better day than the people that were around this car that we're about to look at. So I have gotten an inundation with emails about this weird thing that happens. So let's watch it and go over this. This is a Tesla that lost control when parking. It says it took off to hit 7 vehicles, killing 2 people, and the driver was found not under the influence. And this is about a week ago. So this is a bit wild. So let's take a look. I honestly don't even want to hear the music playing. Like, I don't know why you want to hear music playing to this. So that is the car. It looks like it just kind of went to park, and then it went off the road. And then it speeds to, it almost hits this guy. It keeps going. Note that the brake lights are not on. What you see are the tail lights, not the brake lights. It's going fast enough that it's kicking up dust along the road. It knocked that guy off the road. And this looks like it's going full acceleration. It looks like a Model Y. It's going fully, ouch. And then it finally comes to a stop over here. Now, there are a few weird things with this entire situation. I guess there's a bunch of questions that come up when you watch this. The first is, well, why would somebody not hit the brakes when the car is going that fast? Or what, you know, I guess the question is, why wouldn't you hit the brakes if you notice you're randomly accelerating? Because the lights are not even on. So there's two possibilities there. People in the comments are saying that this must be some sort of pedal error. Now, I can understand pedal error to an extent. Like, let's say, again, you're at a traffic light and you've come to almost a complete stop. You go to hit the brakes and you accidentally hit the accelerator and you go through the people that are walking through the traffic light. I'm not saying that's right, but I could understand how that type of issue can happen. I cannot play the clip again, but you're welcome to watch it. It's linked in the description of the video. I understand how, yeah, like I completely understand how somebody could potentially hit the wrong pedal. Like, again, you know, they're coming up to a traffic light. It's just about to, you know, turn red. They're just about to stop. They go to hit the brake. They accidentally hit the accelerator, and it just goes through everybody. But if that happened, you'd imagine the person would stop like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds in. This keeps going for a good 20 seconds, which is really, really strange. Excuse me. Let's see if the video is capable of replaying. Okay, it's Reddit, so it's not going to replay unless I reload. Go Reddit. Always have a nice little quality video player here. Yeah, let's say, how many seconds is this thing going damn near full speed for? So he goes to stop. Like, he's turning. Like, why is he? I don't know why he turned over there after it looked like he was stopping. Okay, now it looks like this is full acceleration here. This is full acceleration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, you're not going to have pedal error for 10 seconds. So people saying this is pedal error, I think are, yeah, because maybe I'm wrong here. I've never had pedal error before, thank God. But I've never had a case where, like, okay, not only am I on the wrong pedal, but I'm on the wrong pedal for a good, like, 10 or 20 seconds. Also, you see the brake lights are not on, meaning either A, he wasn't hitting the brake, or B, he hit the brake and it didn't do anything. Now, when it comes to autopilot, disengaging autopilot is fairly simple. You just hit the little stalk up once, or you hit the brake and it turns off. Now, that doesn't seem like autopilot, because autopilot is not, for all the things people say about autopilot being bad and autopilot having issues, autopilot's not that bad. Autopilot is not even close to that bad. The only thing that makes sense to me is some sort of issue where it thought the pedal was down even though the pedal was not down, and you couldn't engage the brakes. And like, yeah, this is something that this is something that comes up with something like hall sensors and water damage. So let's say that you have a throttle. Let's say, I've never had this problem happen to me because so let's just hypothetically say that you used let's just say that you didn't have the e-bike throttle you needed. So you used a generic e-bike throttle from Amazon that, let's say, doesn't have the best liquid resistance. And you go out on a rainy day, and you're going out on your rainy day, and at some point you look down, and not only is the bike trying to move when it should not be moving, but you also have the screen saying that your accelerator is full. Now, this is this is the kind of thing that I'll be honest, this is the kind of thing I've had happen with e-bikes before. I've had this shit happen with e-bikes where I have an electric bicycle. It's like my normal throttle did not arrive on time, so I go to Amazon and get some shit throttle from Amazon Prime. A lot of stuff you can get on Amazon Prime is not very good, so I wind up getting a throttle, and I don't know who manufactures this garbage or thinks of this, but they actually put together a throttle that is not liquid resistant. So if you're riding in the rain, instead of it'll just think the throttle is on. So you'll just have a full 3 or 5 volts going straight into your throttle. Now, since I have a nice little phase runner on my bike, not only will it tell me with a little visual indication of where the throttle is going, I can actually look in the diagnostics and see how much voltage is going through to the throttle. So I could see how much voltage it thinks is going in there, which is pretty cool. And when I put the bike on the side, I was able to see, oh, it thinks that 5 volts is going through the throttle because this throttle is a piece of shit with no liquid resistance. Now, the way I constructed my bike, I also have a hardware kill switch so that if there's anything that goes wrong with the motor control or anything like that, I literally just pop a button that is right next to my throttle, right next to my brake. I also have one of them on each side, and it just kills the motor, which is really useful. The question is, do you actually have anything like that in a Tesla? Do you have a kill button in a Tesla? Now, there are people in this article that are saying, well, I hate the fact that it's really difficult to change gears. You should be able to change into neutral quickly. Somebody said you could simply force it into neutral. You can also hold down the parking button to apply the emergency brake. It doesn't do much good when 400 pounds of torque is being applied. Now, when it comes to hitting the parking button, I don't think the parking button is going to work if you're going 80 miles an hour. Again, to be clear, I have never tried hitting the parking brake in a Tesla when going 80 miles an hour. However, I have tried, just out of curiosity, in Sonny's Tesla, which I probably shouldn't be admitting on stream. What happens if I try to switch into reverse when going 80 miles an hour? And it gives you an error on the screen where it says, will not change gears because you are moving. Even if you're going at 10 miles an hour, it'll say, cannot change gears, you're moving. Now, I have never tried to switch the car into neutral. I've never tried to switch the car into neutral while it was actually moving, but I imagine the same thing applies. And also, to switch a Tesla into neutral, it's not like you just go to neutral. You have a gear stalk where you go down is drive, up is reverse, and then neutral is half up, but hold it half up for about a second. Now, if you're in a car that's bolting 90 miles an hour down the street, and you're scared to death because you have no idea why the car is going 90 miles an hour down the street, there's no way in hell that you are going to be in the state of mind to put the lever half up and then hold it there for a second, but not full up. Because you're like, oh my God, I have to dodge. Oh my God, it's a person. You're not going to be in the state to do anything like that. So there are people saying that you should switch the car into neutral in there. A, I don't even know if you'd be able to switch the car into neutral by doing that because of just the way the newer cars are put together. And B, even if you could, even if it would actually accept your input to go into neutral, how many people are going to be able to do that in a Model 3 or a Y, where, again, it's not like you just do this to go into neutral or like you just pull a gear stalk, but you have to hold the gear stalk halfway up to get to neutral. I don't see how that's actually going to work. So on the older Model X's, for instance, you at the very least had a separate gear. Now, I kind of get why it is you wouldn't want the gear stalk to allow somebody to accidentally go into neutral if they do this while they're going 60 miles an hour, because the command to turn autopilot on is also tied into the gear stalk. So on a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y, up is reverse, down is drive, but also down once like this while driving puts on cruise control, and down twice while driving turns on auto steer, otherwise known as autopilot. That's the system that keeps you in your lane with cruise control on. which most people either call autopilot, or if you're on a suburban road or something, full self-driving, if you have that capability. Now that you have the turning on or toggling on and off of autopilot and auto steer tied into the gear stalk, if somebody were able to put the car in neutral by doing this while they're driving, what that would do is that would make it so that people who were trying to turn autopilot off by putting the gear stalk up were turning the car into reverse or turning it into neutral. So the car computer has to have some sort of brain in there to recognize, you're going 50 miles an hour and you just put the gear stalk up. You probably want to turn autopilot off. You probably don't want to put the car into neutral. And I should not listen to you if you're trying to put the car into neutral or reverse while the car is going 50 miles an hour, because you probably meant to turn autopilot off, or, and just forgot that it wasn't on or something like that. So the fact that you have in the newer cars, unlike the older cars, the stalk to change the gears combined with the stalk that controls autopilot, most likely this dude had no ability to put the car in neutral whatsoever. However, wouldn't it be nice to be able to actually have a button that would do a turnoff? Again, this is something that I don't see in my own fucking car. I don't see this in any Tesla whatsoever. I don't, none of these cars seem to have the same button that I have in my bike, which essentially kills the controller. So one of the things I like about my electric bike, I have a button that will kill the controller, and then I have a second button that will actually kill power to the controller via a very large power relay. So I can either stop the controller from having its ignition on with the click of a hardware button, not a digital button, a hardware button that kills power to the controller, and B, I have the ability to actually kill power to the entire system. So if I have some runaway throttle bullshit because I bought a bullshit throttle on Amazon Prime, don't trust Amazon Prime for stuff like this, by the way. Go to specialty vendors. Again, I say this with Amazon affiliate links in the description for things that I actually approve of, fully understanding there's a good likelihood of them deleting my account for me saying this stuff. I'm just saying, for specialty items like that, it's much better, in my opinion, to go to a specialty vendor like ebikes.ca or somebody you trust than any of that garbage that winds up making its way to Amazon Prime. But I digress. In the case that something happens like that, I have a hardware button on my e-bike that I can press to keep all that shit from going on. And the real question is, if you have a Model Y or a 3, God forbid something happens with that system so that the accelerator thinks it is being pressed when it is not being pressed, where is your override? What can you do? Again, I'm not saying that it's easy for the pedals to not take user input. I'm not saying it is common that the pedals stop taking user input. What do you do? Now, a lot of people in this thread are talking about, having some sort of, let's see. Where is the part in this thread where they were talking about having some sort of investigation? It's funny, if I just search for this term, usually it'll show up. It says there's no way the driver didn't hit the brakes, the records are wrong, or Tesla is lying. No, see, the check mark on the brake pedal is red. That means it's a parity pedal. Okay, I shouldn't be laughing. That's kind of fucked up. But any investigation that you do here is going to be looking at the Tesla computer and trying to figure out what the Tesla computer thinks happened. So for instance, like in my case in the rain, it would show that my throttle was at 5 volts. Is that because water got inside the hall sensor and shorted everything out inside of that piece of shit throttle that I had? Or is that because I actually pulled the throttle back and really did want to have full throttle on that particular road? The computer is not going to know the difference between me doing this and there being water that landed on the hall sensor. So my question here is, when you investigate something like this, how are you actually going to figure that out? See, here's a good one. It says, theory. Tesla has the logs from the car, which do not record the brakes being applied. The logs would not record pushing a button that doesn't work. He was pushing the brakes, but the pedal wasn't connected to anything, whether by mechanical or software failure. Added, since we could see the brake lights on at several points, I don't know how well this holds up. Okay, I didn't see the brake lights on. Did any of you guys see the brake lights on? Yeah, I don't think that those are brake lights. Counter theory, Tesla knows the guy was hitting the brakes, but would rather try to bury this incident than actually perform the necessary recall or settle legal claims because that's what shitty companies do. That's one comment from Tomo King. I didn't see any brake lights. I saw tail lights. Maybe it's an $8 subscription for the brakes to work. Yeah, that's fucked up, man. Tesla said videos showed the car's brake lights were not on while the car was speeding. Its data showed issues such as there being no action to step on the brakes throughout the vehicle's journey. Okay, so what data are we talking about there, No Bellowell? That's the question that I have. So if the car says you weren't tapping the brake pedal, if there is some sort of hardware malfunction, or if there's some sort of issue with the sensors that are involved there, if the car can't tell if I'm hitting the pedal, then how do you prove that I wasn't hitting the pedal? So if I'm smashing the pedal, but the car doesn't know if I'm hitting the pedal because of the same issue that caused it to not brake, Reddit comments are insane. Honestly, these Reddit comments are fairly on point, Kopaz. I don't know how the word digress is. Why is the word digress associated with Timcast? I've been using that word since before he had a YouTube account. I did bring this chair to Texas. Yes, I did. Maybe a communication problem between the main computer and the motor controller. Distributed systems can have a very strange edge case behavior. I doubt a software code causing a car to go full throttle unless car just simply ignores throttle. A lot of automatic cars with a reverse lockout at speed allow you to shift to neutral, so hopefully it works in the Tesla. Yeah, I actually kind of want to try that, not just on this car, but also on the older Model X or something that Sunny has. Like, how does... I don't know. Like, the old Model X had the stalk for controlling autopilot be a separate stalk than the stalk that's used for shifting gears. I get the use. I understand the entire use case for the stalk being the way it is, and it really is functional. Drive, reverse, park. If I want to do neutral when the car is not moving, half up for about a second puts it into neutral. If I want autopilot, done. If I want to turn off autopilot, done, or hit the brake, but I don't usually hit the brake. You wouldn't usually hit the brake when turning off autopilot, even though hitting the brake disengages autopilot, because then the car is going to start applying regenerative braking. So usually you keep your foot on the accelerator a little bit so that when you turn off autopilot, it doesn't start braking, and then you turn off autopilot like this. Obviously, that stalk has to be smart. It has to understand that if I'm going 70 miles an hour down the road with autopilot on, and I have my foot on the accelerator, that when I do this, I do not want the car to fucking go in reverse. And it is smart enough to get that. No, this means autopilot off. And if I hit it again by accident, it will go pop, pop, pop. It'll beep and say, no, we're not putting you in reverse while you're driving 70 miles an hour forward. The car is smart enough to not do that, which is appreciated. It's just at the same time, it would be nice to be able to have the option to put the car into fucking neutral. If, again, God forbid, something goes wrong with the accelerator pedal or the engine or something, I want the ability to disconnect that shit from the wheel. And the inability to do that sucks. Brake pads won't hold back an engine at full power. I don't know if it would or it wouldn't. I know I've seen the size of the brake pads in the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y Performance, or at least the baseline one. The baseline one, the non-performance model, they're fairly small brake pads. They're what you would expect to see on like an $18,000 Honda or Volkswagen or something. But the thing is, like, at the very least, it's not going to stop it, but I think it would keep it from going 90 miles an hour. I think we could both agree that the brakes, while not being able to stop the motor at full power, would probably keep it from doing a full 90 to 120 miles an hour, which it looked like it was doing in that. Let's see. In a regular car, the brake light is a mechanical switch which turns off the brakes. When you press the brakes, the switch button releases and the brakes come on. This is unrelated to the pressing of the pedal, pushing a cable, plunger, or brake sensor to activate the brakes in the car. So your brake lights can go out and will have no effect on your brakes, and a loss of the braking system will have no effect on the brake lights working. That's for most cars. I do not work on Teslas and couldn't tell you whether they follow the industry standard. If he was repeatedly stamping on the accelerator thinking it was the brake, each time he took his foot off the accelerator, the car would immediately start regeneratively braking. True. And activate the brake lights. only to be overridden again by the guy stamping the accelerator. But yes, you're right. The problem with the Tesla company relying on the logs is that it's going to show you what the car thought the input was, not what the actual input was, if the case was the car got its wires crossed sort of failure. And this is true. If they do an investigation, you're going to have to look at shit like I would be curious with forensics. Can you actually look at the mat of the car and see, like, oh crap, this guy smashed on the brake so hard that it's like, the pedal is worn in this area, or it's been misaligned because he was stamping on it because he was so afraid, or it left a mark on the mat or something like that. You're gonna have to rely on some shit like that other than just the logs, because again, if the car was not stopping because it wasn't registering the brake button being hit, then how are the brake pads being hit? If the car is not stopping because it is not registering the brakes being hit, then how is a log in an investigation going to show us any different information? The car didn't think the brakes were being hit while the guy was hitting the brakes, and the log says he wasn't hitting the brakes. I mean, obviously, if like, you're not going to have a part of the car that registers, oh yes, he was hitting the brakes, we just ignored it because we're assholes. Like, I don't think that that's going to be a part of the logging system of the car. You can try this in any car. Push down the brake as hard as you can and increase the throttle. Eventually, the engine or motor will overpower the force of the brakes. No, it's for edits, Bela. I do this for edits. Makes it easier. Let's see. You should get your brakes looked at often. True. I get that the engine of the motor is going to overpower the force of the brakes. It's just, is it going to overpower it to the point where it goes 0 to 90 in like 6 seconds? So there's no emergency stop cutoff switch inside a Tesla. There is an emergency door handle thing so that if the electronics fail, the people in the front of the car have the ability to get out. The people in the back are just fucked. They're going to die. But the people in the front of the car have the ability to actually get out by hitting. But there's no emergency stop that I know of. Cars are designed so the engine can't overpower the brakes. I think that's a regulation. I don't think this is a question of whether the brakes are overpowering the... If you introduce an override kill engine switch, you are now introducing a potential fault where the system thinks you hit the button, but you didn't, and you were going left lane on a highway at 80 miles an hour. Okay, that's true. Okay, but here's the thing. That is true, Copaz. Having a full hardware kill switch like that again, it introduces if somebody hits the wrong button and the car just decides to die. But how is that different from a manual car where you have the ability, and again, I'm not saying you should do it, but where you have a manual transmission car and you have the ability to switch into neutral while you're driving? Like, if you have the ability to switch into neutral while you're driving, that is similar. Because keep in mind, a kill switch is not actually going... Like, if you have this kill switch for the controller in the car, that's not going to immediately stop the vehicle. That's just going to cause it to stop accelerating forward. No stroke, you can tell the person is trying to steer the whole time. Yeah, and he actually did a good, fairly decent job at the steering in the very beginning of this. If you take a look at it, like in the beginning, he goes to the side of the road. I don't know what this was. So him deciding to go back into the road right where the bike was there. But look, he avoided the biker. He avoided the biker, which again, that was showing that like there's some brain usage going on there. You know, he avoids that van. But that looks like 60 to 90 miles an hour to me. And there he was screwed because there was a truck, a bike, and something else. And then I think what happened after he hit that truck, it's like, okay, I have to crash into a building or something. I have to figure out a way to stop because if I don't, I'm just going to kill everybody on the road. And then he crashes into the side. I don't think he was trying to kill people. Wasn't there an old autopilot version that would resume speeds at highway speeds? But even then, brakes would still work to disengage. I don't know if manual transmissions are drive-by-wire system, but if the transmission is switched electronically based on user input, that would be a similar fault. If the transmission switched mechanically, that would be different. Like what I'm thinking of is if you're in a manual vehicle, like clutch, switch, neutral, you could see he was trying to avoid them. Looked like 90 miles an hour easily. Yeah, that looked like 70 to 90. The funny thing at the end of all this is like, here's the funny thing though. Here's where it gets sad. I don't know if this is funny or sad. It's probably sad. One moment. Eli, the computer guy, was going over this. So like Senator Ed Markey was saying, a Washington Post reporter was able to create a verified account impersonating me. I'm asking for answers from Elon Musk, who's putting profits over people and is dead over stopping this information. Twitter must explain how this happened. And Elon Musk says, perhaps it is because your real account sounds like a parody. And why does your profile picture have a mask? And then he continues. Like it literally just continues and continues and continues. And he just starts laughing at the guy saying to protect against digital viruses. And okay, honestly, that's kind of funny. All this stuff is kind of funny, but it's like, that may not be the best time to start poking senators. That's probably a really bad time to start poking senators. Oh man. Yo, I'm not invested in Tesla or Twitter. I'm not short, not long, just I'm out of it. So I can just sit here and watch the shit show. Where did it say that meant profile pic? Common sense. That's common sense. I forget the word that they used in first grade grammar and phonics. There was this idea to use it to try to guess what a word meant by putting it in context. So you would see how the word was being used in a sentence and then make an educated guess as to what it meant in that particular instance. If he had autopilot set at 70 prior, wasn't there? I don't think this has anything to. It's hard for me to imagine this having anything to do with autopilot. Again, you can disengage autopilot by doing this. You can disengage autopilot by hitting the brake. Also, autopilot sees shit in front of it. Like, as much as we can joke and laugh about how autopilot has issues, it's going to tell that there's a bunch of crap in front of it and start slowing down. This doesn't seem like an autopilot issue. This seems like an issue where the pedals stopped working for whatever reason. Wire crossed, liquid got somewhere it wasn't supposed to go, something was exposed, and as a result, the brake was cut off at the same time that the accelerator pedal was stuck down. And this really does, like, a hardware button to put the car in neutral or a hardware kill switch to turn off the controller is something that I would really, really want and not necessarily feel comfortable driving without after seeing a video like this. Like, just after having that experience on my electric bike where I used the shitty throttle from Amazon Prime, and it wanted to do something stupid, I was able to counteract it before it happened. Again, I had hardware brakes on my bike, do this, and again, eventually that motor is gonna do something stupid, so I just hit the button. So that once I hit the button, I can safely remove the brakes, I can put the bike aside, I can see the stupid thing that happened, and I can fix it. But good luck with that without a switch. Like I don't know. Do you guys think a hardware neutral switch, like just a button that puts the car in neutral, would be useful here? By show of hands, because again, I'm not a car person, I'm very curious. Are there cases documented where braking fails or uncontrolled acceleration? I mean, there's many cases of Toyota had a thing with unintended acceleration a while back. I don't trust opinions, I trust facts. Good luck getting the facts of this case. Have you forgotten about the Toyota Prius floor mats? Nope. Showing hands. PXN America says should be a requirement for towing as well. Well, they do have a way to put the car in towing mode, but it's not the same thing as like having a hardware neutral button. Industrial machinery has emergency stops for a reason. Yeah, something that has 400 plus horsepower, like the idea of having some way to turn it off outside of the pedal would be nice. But then again, there's also the question of if the brake fails and the system for acceleration fails, then who's to say that that button wouldn't also fail? That button would have to be on some sort of separate system. It shouldn't be on the same. It shouldn't be something that just sends something to the same control system that the brake pedal and the accelerator pedal are sending controls to. It should be either, let's say, hardware neutral. Okay, that doesn't set it. That doesn't work for whatever reason. Cut power to controller entirely. There is so much speculation right now, and I'm guessing we will never know the real answers. Well, you never know. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Useful here, yes. It may cause other issues with dumb users. Yeah. Again, like when you think about the design of the car, a lot of it is idiot-proof. Like if you try to go into reverse on the highway, it will not switch you into reverse. If you try to hit drive while reversing, it will not switch you into drive unless you're going like 1 or 2 miles an hour. If you're reversing at 1 mile an hour and then you just go straight to drive or vice versa without hitting the brake, it'll switch because you're only going 1 or 2 miles an hour. But it is not going to put you in a neutral on the highway. It's designed to kind of anticipate something that an idiot would do and correct you. So having a hardware button to go around that is not the way that you would think the car would work, because that's not the way it works in every other way, which could lead to people doing other stupid shit. A big red stop button in the center of the dash would look. It should be a manual lever like how the Chrysler 8 speeds are. Let's take a look at that. This seems a what if hackers take over and control your car situation becoming real. That's something that I never even remotely thought of. That's something I never even came. Okay. I mean, the car is connected to the internet. That car is connected to the internet. So what, like that is absolutely a plausible explanation for this. Like, what if the car that connects to the had somebody hack into it and just accelerate it like crazy and took away the ability for it to brake? A kill switch in a Tesla would need to be installed between the batteries and the motors. Flip the switch, the circuitry automatically gets cut while the electric engines continue to spin and slow down. The Chrysler transmission actually killed an actor. That's why they slam it in park when the doors open. How'd that happen? Stop with the idiot-proofing of equipment. Just don't give idiots licenses. It's hard to tell. Do you trust people at the DMV to be able to tell whether somebody is smart or not? Like, I know you can half move the stalk for neutral, but I don't know if there's a speed limit attached. Yeah, but the thing is with the half moving the stalk is if you're in a situation where you need to hardware neutral, because of something like this happening, half moving the stock just ain't going to do it. It's just not going to work. Like the idea that I'm going to hit it, not only half move the stock, but half move it and hold it for half a second while I'm in fear for my life. Like, even, you know, I find it annoying to put the car into neutral, even just sitting at a car wash. It's like oh, okay, there we go. Don't own a Tesla, but holding down the park button will 99% slam on 100% brakes plus e-brake and start ignoring accelerator pedal input. All right, okay, are you sure of that? Because again, this is not something that I am looking to test. I don't want to put the parking brake on while I'm going 80 miles an hour for obvious reasons, because I value my life. But this is not something I want to try on a highway. I know that if you're going 1 or 2 miles an hour, you hit the parking brake and it'll put it on. But does that work at 70, 80, or 90 miles an hour? But more importantly, if the input for the brake pedal and the accelerator are both not working, is the park button, which may be communicating on the same or similar bus, going to have the same problem? Truth be told, I actually suspect the Tesla may have been hacked. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the first thing I thought, similar to the Ryan Hastings incident. Okay, I know the holding the park button, but if you like the same way that the car is not going to listen to me if I try to put it in reverse or neutral while going like 50 miles an hour, is it going to listen to me if I hit the park button at 50 miles an hour? Oreo, are you crying? My cat is crying. I have to go pay attention to my cat. I should probably go pay attention to my cat. I'm going to go pay attention to my cat. I'm going to pet him. I'm going to pet the cat. I'm going to feed the cat. I'm going to love the cat. Give him a nice hug. Anyway, I'll see you all later. Thank you for watching. And as always, hope you learned something. See you in the next video.